Um, we keep getting off topic, but you need to
Yeah.
tell me what you needed to tell me.
Oh, there no self help.
No, you said you had to tell me something. You're gonna wait for the podcast for.
So I thought it was interesting.
We'll end it here because we're already an hour in, dude.
Oh shoot! All right. Basically, I was over. So last week when you had to cancel on the recording.
Yeah, had work.
Went down to Little Tokyo because I haven't been there since I got back from Alaska earlier in the year.
Okay.
And had a good time. Everything was fun. Was out there with a couple cousins of mine. And at around 10 p.m. or whatever, like we had been noticing that there were like cop helicopters around pretty frequently, so we thought that was kind of weird. But at around 10, we start walking down First Street towards the police headquarters station place or whatever that is. Right across the street from like the courthouse. And we noticed that there was a bunch of news vans and whatnot. And then we noticed that in front of the station, there's a bunch of cops lined up in like semi-riot gear. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then I immediately look over across the street, and there's a freaking gathering of like just people. Some looked pretty Antifa-like.
Antifa, huh?
But I don't think they were all Antifa, but they definitely had a very.
I have a feeling I know where this is going, but keep going.
It might not actually be, but anyways. So I immediately am like, ooh, let's go. And my two cousins, who usually I would not associate with being down with that kind of stuff, were actually down to go. So we go over to the group, and they're shouting.
You should have filmed it, man.
I know. I'm not that kind of person. I'm like, the first thing in my mind is be in the moment,
Yeah, that's
but
true.
I do want to be.
I'm in the same boat.
I got to try to do that more often. But
maybe like 10 minutes is enough.
So anyways, go over there and listening to them cry about their gay things.
Well, what were they protesting about?
So this was right after the one that happened in Wisconsin.
Was it Jacob Blake? David Blake? Hold on, let me double check.
Probably not David Blake, because I'm pretty sure that's a famous person.
Jacob Blake. Yeah.
And so they're doing all that thing. Oh,
hey,
cops.
Peaceful protesters, man.
Who? Oh, okay, I gotcha.
I'm just joking.
Anyway, so just complaining about police brutality and that they will not tell us what to do.
How big was the group?
I would say probably at least 60 or 80, so not super huge,
that's a
but
decent gathering,
yeah.
Though.
And
especially how recent the event was.
Yeah, so I was kind of I just stood there listening, kind of interested by it, kind of laughing at the same time, and then all of a sudden they ditch the megaphone. And they're saying, we're going to be sending out 3 scouts in about 5 minutes, blah, blah, whatever.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Sounds like they're going to war.
Right? And I'm like, scouts? What the hell? So I'm like, that's really intriguing. I wonder what that entails. And I'm like, oh, I wonder who might like that information. So I was like, you're all faggots. And then I crossed the street to the cops.
Uh-huh.
And I just went to a few of them and was like, hey, I don't really know exactly what it means, but just thought you guys might want to know. They're talking about sending 3 scouts out in about 5 minutes. Again, don't know what that is, but thought maybe you guys might need that or would like that information.
Uh-huh.
And a couple of them were like, yeah, no, actually that we'll send that up to the whatever,
the chief or whatever.
So that was that, and start walking down, planning on just walking around LA. But then near the end of the block, where the station is, I'm like, you know what? You want to to my cousins? I'm like, you want to stick around and see what happens? And they're like, yeah, sure. So we popped the squat right there at the end of the block, and we were just kind of talking, just the 3 of us. And then all of a sudden, this Hispanic kid comes over, and he's wearing a mask and whatnot. Kind of looks a little gangster, but not really. Almost like the pretty boy gangster type. And he's like, hey, man, what's going down or whatever. So we start telling him what's going on because I guess he saw it while he was driving and was curious. So we start talking about it, and I think he asked first, like, so you guys a part of it or something? And I'm like, oh, hell no. And he goes, oh, well, you're not down with that stuff? And I'm like, absolutely not. And that just kind of opened up the floodgates of opinions and stuff.
Oh, gosh.
So,
did he start just going off?
No, actually. So I was discussing the fact that, hey, as a brown skin, I think this is all stupid, and my opinions on, like, hey, These guys, they have some legitimate concerns. There are cops that are murderers. There are cops that are terrible scumbag human beings. That is true, and they should be dealt with. But the correct solution is not to get rid of the police, you know?
It's just a few bad batches. Yeah. Like, just a few.
And even if it was more than a few, it's still not the appropriate reaction to be, get rid of the police.
No, we need the police. Come on. That's why I'm buying a gun right now. Come on, guys.
Yeah. And, you know, stuff about Trump, stuff about whatever, and going on and on. We're talking like a good 15, 20 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
So then he started talking to my cousins, and I turn over because I wanted to ask one of the cops something. I was probably gonna see if this was happening because it was weird. Like we in LA, it's been kind of chill. You know, like after the riots, it kind of died off.
No, it's like coming up again.
Yeah. So I was curious. I was gonna go and ask him like, hey, how long has this been going on? Anyway, so I start walking over to him, and about like maybe 5 feet away, he looks over at me and then points at his head and gives me a little nod. And I'm like, I'm not sure what that means exactly. And I'm like, am I gonna get in trouble? And he goes, not that I was eavesdropping or anything, but I agreed with everything you said. And I'm like, oh snap, really? Like that's kind of cool. Like even the whole cop part. And he's like, yeah, no, it's true, man. And so then that was kind of interesting. So then he and I started talking, and basically we were there for a good hour and 45 minutes talking with this cop. And during the conversation, like three or four other cops also came over. One of them also joined in the conversation. Mm-hmm. The other ones were just listening, but they all came closer. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we started talking about, you know, society and how stupid things are, how people are so easily manipulated by using emotions, the lack of true education, whether it be academia or just in the current situation of things. We started talking about what could be probable solutions and all this kind of stuff. And he, like midway, he looks over at me and he's like, oh, because again, remember, there's a bunch of like news vans and stuff. And he looks at me, and he goes, why aren't you talking to the media? And I'm like, a little bit inside, like my child part, like, ooh, yay, cop thinks I'm cool, you know? But
I'm surprised they didn't like try to push you like to the...
Yeah, it was just, but so, because they did. They pointed their cameras over towards our direction a couple times.
I guarantee you they're probably going to edit that out.
Well, yeah, well, they probably couldn't hear from
depending on the news station, I suppose.
But the thing that I told them is that I was like, listen, honestly, it's a little bit crazy for me because I don't necessarily want to be in the spotlight, but I would not, you know, I wouldn't reject the opportunity. Mm-hmm. But there was one other time, and I forget how long ago it was, but it was a few years ago. But I told them I have one experience with the media, and that is they screen you before they put you on. If they don't like what you have to say, you're not, then they'll just go to somebody else. Oh, you told them that? Yeah. And I told them, maybe not every news channel does it that way, but from what I've seen at least, from what I've experienced, that's what they do. They screen you first, then they put you on. And he goes, yeah, no, actually that kind of makes sense. I didn't even consider that. And all this kind of stuff. So it was kind of cool that he thought you should be out there or whatever. But it was an awesome conversation. He started talking to us about certain things that were going down with as far as like, you know, when you grow up as a kid and you're one of those kids that like, oh, I want to be a cop when I grow up.
Oh yeah,
you want to be a cop because you want to stop crime.
You want to be good. You want to do good.
You don't want to become a cop to impound someone's car because the registration expired or something like that, you know. And he's like, that stuff pisses him off, and a lot of other people in the police force. You know, which goes to you know, kind of solidify the whole thing, which is not all cops are scumbags. Some are legitimately trying to help the community, help people.
Yeah.
But
I mean, segue, like, you know, that YouTube page, Police Activity. I did see a clip of a cop, drunk driver going the opposite direction, veers his car in front of the drunk driver to stop it from hitting a civilian vehicle. Like, stuff like that happens. Yeah. But the thing is, the media doesn't report on it.
I don't care about that.
I just don't understand why would you... Like, these people are trying to protect us. Why go out of your way to, you know, defame them? Yeah. Make them look like the bad guy.
Do what needs to be done. You got a cop who's abusing his powers, get rid of him.
You
have a cop who should not have, in any way, shape, or form, unloaded an entire magazine's worth of lead into a person who is running away from them. Charge him for murder, but it should be a case by case basis. It should never be this, because again, even with the race thing, you immediately start saying, oh, white people this, white people that. You're maybe there are some white racists, obviously. Maybe there are some rich white people who don't deserve their riches. But if you just take those few people and put their blame on the entirety of everyone else, then that's racist. That's wrong. And the same thing can be said with any other ethnicity. And when you're dealing with an organization like, with a police department, it's also wrong to associate the wrongdoings of the actual terrible people and then blame the entirety. That never fixes anything. Mm-hmm. It's always going to be the wrong answer. So yeah. Anyways, it was just a super pleasant.
So how did that? Well, how did it end? Sorry.
Basically, they
never try to push you to be on the media, because honestly, like
he
because here's the thing I'm gonna say is you're a voice tied to a minority that won't essentially say these things. So it's definitely like a culture shock to everyone on the left.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, do you remember my Antifa friend from recent memory? He's like, well, "You're Hispanic and you support Trump." Like, yeah. Dude.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Oh man.
I did tell that to him. Which is like, I was like, that's part of the reason why I wouldn't deny the opportunity, and that's part of the reason why I am so public and outgoing about my views and my opinions and stuff, because like I told the cop, I'm sick and tired of seeing white people be the ones that are saying all the things.
What ethnicity was this cop? I'm kind of curious. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was a white guy, and also former Army, I think. So that also kind of sort of helps things, I suppose.
Dude, those are our demographics, man.
Yeah,
that's our background.
Yeah,
just hardworking, blue collar Americans.
But so anyways, I told him, I'm sick of white people being the ones in the spotlight, and then all of a sudden they get labeled as racists and all these different things and get beaten up for having the same beliefs that I have. So I want to be that person. So that way you, aka the stupid idiot liberal people, will at least if it's just a moment's hesitation because my skin ain't my skin ain't white, then good. Maybe that might be the seed to cause you to think, oh, maybe we are idiots, know? So I did tell him that, and like I said, he did really wish I could be on one of those news channels.
Oh man!
But like I said, after I told him though about the whole thing with the screening process, and they will have you on if they want you on. If they don't like what you have to say, then they don't have you on.
I'm gonna assume, and it's alright. The moment's passed already, but if I kind of wish I was there. I would have pushed you, man. You know me.
Maybe.
I would have pushed. I normally don't go out of my way, and I'm not normally that guy that doesn't want to talk. But if I was in that situation, I would tell the cop, you know what, this is not a bad idea. If you have the pull, then, whatever media outlet would be willing to take you.
But that's the whole thing,
Yeah, exactly what you're saying. But let's just say if you had the pull, or maybe a source that would allow you to present your thoughts.
Well,
or just YouTube drop our page. Hey, why don't you just share this among...
I have a feeling it won't be the last time that I'm in a scenario like that. I didn't even consider going up and asking any of the freaking 5 or 6 different news people that were there, can I be on? Because that's just not the way my brain works. But, maybe if there's a next time, I could be a little bit more pursuant of that.
Watch you become the next, what was that kid? You're that kid with the MAGA hat?
Yeah.
I forgot the kid's name. Nick Salmon or something like that.
That was the one where they thought he was being a dick to the Indian guy,
but then he ended up getting...
actually the Indian guy being a dick.
Yeah. Getting $80 million on a defamation lawsuit from CNN. Hey, you're the highest paid CNN employee now.
Yep, there you go.
And he's not even a Democrat.
Ridiculous. You know what I would have done?
What?
I don't know exactly what the net worth of CNN is, but if it was anything around a decent ballpark, after I got the 80 million, I buy up the majority of their stocks. So I take over CNN.
That's smart. That's 4G chess, as I call it. Well, but, anything else you want to add to that story?
No, basically it ended with the I don't know, protesters or whatever going on their march.
Did they do anything?
So the cops thought they were going to go and just face off, but they ended up not. They went down.
Did they loot
Spring Street? They didn't loot. So we continued to talk to the cops once the group already left.
Okay.
And on the radio they mentioned that a couple windows had been broken on a hotel somewhere on 7th and Grand, I think.
Oh my gosh.
It was freaking hilarious though, because they were kind of listening, quietly to the first report, and I hear the two cops, they're like, must have been some racist windows. And freaking everybody that was around us started cracking up. It was freaking hilarious.
Racist windows.
But it was cool though, because like I said, we continued to talk. They ended up being told by their sergeant to be mobile, so they had to go and pace up and down and stuff, which is when we
broke off.
But it was cool though, because even that Hispanic guy who initially came over to us, he stood around the entire time, and even like was starting to like agree with certain things. Like, I can kind of see that. I never thought about it that way, and blah blah blah. It was just a very awesome, wholesome conversation. Hour and 45 minutes, not short, but it felt.
We need more of those moments.
We do.
And
here's the thing, for anybody who's listening, who might be on the same lines as we are, but you've, I don't know, maybe felt shy or scared or nervous or anxious, or maybe it's not your place to speak up. I would encourage you to get rid of that mindset. Sure, maybe don't walk into a random group of people and immediately start shouting your beliefs. But if the time is right,
you got to tell that to the other
opportunity,
end.
But if you see the opportunity, speak up.
Oh yeah,
sure. There's a risk nowadays, especially, but
what do you have to lose?
Yeah,
I mean, I think the biggest thing is people are afraid of what people think of them. Yeah. They don't want to be labeled anything that they don't think they are. But the thing is, it's like, it's you have to say.
I've legit been labeled a Nazi. Ninja, I'm not even white. I am very brown, gingerbread brown, which is nice, but still, I'm like, what? A Nazi?
I've been called. I think the worst thing that I've been called is they've called me a racist ball of energy.
Almost kind of cool.
The ball of energy part.
But can you imagine physically a racist ball of energy?
No, I'm not gonna say it. It's like a power up move. Anyways, that's the worst thing I've been called.
Yeah.
So that was a good story to end up, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad you saved it. If anything, I wish we just stayed on that topic.
True. You can always touch on it.
And I'm kind of disappointed. Like, if there was any a situation that I'd want to be in, I would like to be there. Because, what I'm exposed to is through a lens.
Yeah.
To a TV monitor, to a computer monitor.
Yeah.
I'm never actually on the ground to see these things. Mainly because I'm a pussy.
You have a track record, I will admit.
No, but I would say lately I've been more bold about my opinions.
Yeah.
And you just have to be.
Honestly, it would
the silent majority is no longer.
It would have been cool if you were there, because I did not.
I was working. Unfortunately.
I know. I did not go down there.
You know what? I was working in LA though. If only you hit me up, I probably would have come with my scrubs. I'm like, you want my opinion? I'll be on the news. I'm in scrubs. You can put doctor.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
But it would have been interesting, because like I said, we didn't go down there with any sort of expectation of coming across that stuff.
Can you imagine that we almost became cops? You closer than me, obviously, but we were in the process. I just figured, oh, thank God, I'm kind of glad nothing against being a police officer. What you guys do is hard, but I'm kind of glad that I dropped out, because I would have been a weak link to you guys. And that's just me being honest.
Yeah.
I probably would have shot at least a dozen people by now.
I'm definitely along the same line.
He looked at me.
He's still looking at me. Let me shoot him 10 more times. But sir, he's dead. But anyways,
that's a joke.
Obviously. But good conversation.